The Twins start a 3-game weekend series against the Brewers tonight, and Call Sheet can take your viewing experience to the next level. By using code FANARCHBASEBALL, you can get $10 when you trade 10. So shout out to Call Sheet for sponsoring today's episode. But what is going on, Twins fans? Happy Friday, and welcome back to another episode of Twins Latest. I'm Sam Calder. Hope you are all doing well. It has been an eventful last 24 hours in the world of Twins baseball. And we're going to talk about all of it today. But before we get to anything, we are on the road to 500 subscribers. So if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do me a huge favor and hit that button for daily Twins content. Drop a question for me in the comments to be featured in our next mailbag segment. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into the episode. We will start things out by looking at yesterday's series finale against the Marlins. But before we do, we've got some very important roster moves that we need to discuss. The Twins are optioning Travis Adams and finally Matt Wallner to AAA St. Paul, and they're bringing up Zebby Matthews and Ryan Kreidler to take their places. Both Matthews and Kreidler started yesterday, with Matthews getting the nod on the hill, which we will get to here in a moment. But this feels like a long time coming for Matt Wallner. He's clearly in a funk. It's what's best for all parties, in my opinion. It's not a fun thing. You don't want to see him go down to AAA. But it is what it is. And like I said, it's what's best for the Twins and probably for Matt Wallner in the long term. So, just wanted to give you guys a quick little update there. But as for yesterday's game, it was a fantastic way to end the series. A 9-1 win in a game that never felt close. Zebby Matthews was excellent. 7 shutout innings with just 4 hits and a walk while striking out 5. 7 whiffs on 88 pitches, which on its own is not great, but there was very little hard contact. And 7 shutout innings speaks for itself when it's all said and done. Zebby deserves to stay in the rotation after this, plain and simple. And I don't know what the Twins' plan is or what they intend to do, whether they want to roll with a 6-man rotation, whether they want to send Connor Prelup down, or send him or Simeon Woods-Richardson to the bullpen, which would be my vote to send Woods-Richardson there. But Zebby deserves at least another turn or two after that outing in the rotation. The offense was clicking from the first inning, which oddly enough was an extremely frustrating frame. The Twins loaded the bases with no outs and then proceeded to strike out 3 times in a row to end the inning with no runs. However, they did not let that keep them down. They put up a 5 spot in the second, added another in the third, and then put up 3 insurance runs in the 8th for good measure. 9 hits and 6 walks as a team. And of all people, James Outman was the star of the day on the offensive side of things. 2 for 3 at the plate along with the walk. And after entering the game with not a single RBI on the season, he logged 3 just in yesterday's game alone. And with Wallner being sent down, that's probably going to clear up some more playing time for him if I had to imagine. It was another great day for Austin Martin as well. He was also 2 for 3 with a walk and 3 RBIs. Martin is going to be the primary beneficiary of Wallner being sent down. Derek Shelton said so himself. This is mainly for Austin Martin to get everyday playing time, which is something I've been asking for a while, as have a lot of Twins fans. But Ryan Kreidler reached base 3 times in his first game back up. Ryan Jeffers reached twice. Just an all-around dominant performance from the Twins yesterday. They move to 20-24 on the season and will take on the Milwaukee Brewers in a 3-game weekend series starting tonight. We will touch on that series more here in a bit. But shifting gears from yesterday's game, we have already seen a handful of Twins prospects get called up to the majors this season. Andrew Morris was first, followed soon thereafter by Connor Prelup and Kendry Rojas, and then John Klein. But that still leaves a handful of talented, high upside prospects that could have an opportunity sooner or later. So who are some of the names that I could see being the next prospect the Twins call up? I've got 3 names that I realistically could see being next. And I'll start at the top in terms of their prospect ranking and work my way down. The first name is the Twins' number 2 prospect, shortstop Kalen Culpepper. Through 174 plate appearances at AAA St. Paul, Culpepper is hitting .253 with a .345 on-base percentage, 15 total extra base hits, and a perfect 8 for 8 on stolen base attempts. It would appear that he is quite ready. As far as the opportunity aspect, it was looking for a while like Brooks Lee was going to need a reset, and that could have opened a door for Culpepper, but that's not really the case anymore. However, there's a couple of other guys who could possibly use a reset themselves. Royce Lewis, most notably. But it's possible that Luke Keeschall could be finding himself in that situation if he keeps hitting poorly. So there's definitely a case to be made for Kalen Culpepper. The next prospect I'll bring up is right behind Culpepper in terms of rankings. The Twins' number 3 prospect, outfielder Emmanuel Rodriguez. And a lot of people have been calling for him to be called up for a while now, and I don't blame them. He's currently hitting .247 with an on-base percentage north of 400, 6 homers in 25 games, including the 2 hardest hit balls in Twins franchise history already this season. And it is May 14th as I'm recording this, along with 3 stolen bases. His .304 BABIP would be very, very high for just about any other player aside from Rodriguez. With how hard he hits the ball, his BABIP each of the last 2 seasons has been north of 400. So in theory, he should be hitting much higher than .247. The outfield picture is a little tricky right now. The Twins just sent down Matt Wallner, like I mentioned, and still have 4 outfielders on the roster, 5 if you include Ryan Kreidler. And Rodriguez is currently hurt. Shouldn't be anything long-term, though. He's on the 7-day IL, but while it's still a little cloudy, Rodriguez could easily be the next prospect we see get the call. And then the last name I want to bring up as a possibility is nowhere near the other 2 in terms of their prospect rank. It's another pitcher, Ryan Gallagher. Gallagher was promoted to AAA just a couple weeks ago, and he has not been excellent by any means there, but his overall numbers are still decent. Across 29 innings between the 2 levels, he's sporting a .403 ERA and 31 strikeouts to 15 walks. The command is a slight concern, but his stuff is solid. I would imagine he'd be getting called up in a reliever role, considering how shaky the Twins bullpen is. But he is a possibility. As far as my prediction as to who will be called up first, I'm going to say it's Kalen Culpepper. I think his all-around performance, mixed with the struggles of some of the other Twins' current infielders, gives him the best chance. I also have to imagine that the Twins will want to give Rodriguez some extra time to get fully back to 100%, and Gallagher just got called up to AAA and has not been excellent there. So I don't think it'll be either of those 2. I could be wrong, but my guess for the next Twins prospect to be called up is Kalen Culpepper. But folks, in case you have been living under a rock, baseball season is officially upon us. And now you can trade every single game on Kalshi. The Twins are trading at 48% probability to take the series opener against the Brewers tonight, meaning a $100 trade pays out $201 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there is no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything. But speaking of tonight's series opener, let's talk about it. Game 1 of a 3-game series at Target Field against the Milwaukee Brewers this weekend. The Brewers come in at 24-17, just 2 games back of the lead in the NL Central Division, and 7-3 over their last 10 games, so they're playing some good baseball right now. Milwaukee has only announced their starting pitcher for this series for Saturday's game as I'm recording this, which is kind of strange. It would be one thing if, none of their starters were announced, so I'm a little confused by that one. But anywho, it's tough to know who's going to be pitching for the other team if it hasn't been announced. But for the Twins, it will be Joe Ryan, who's coming off of a really nice start in Cleveland over the weekend. I'm curious to see how deep Derek Shelton lets him go, because he threw 107 pitches on Saturday, and that was in his first start after leaving 2 weekends ago with elbow soreness. I wouldn't think they would let him go that deep again, but if they were comfortable enough to let him after less than a week, they probably are again. The Brewers are a very solid team against fastballs, and Joe Ryan leans on that four-seam over 50% of the time. But his fastball is not your average Major League fastball. It is one of the best in the league. So I'm curious to see who wins that strength-on-strength battle. I'm going to believe in my team's ace and say that he leads us to a series-opening victory tonight. Without knowing who's throwing for Milwaukee, I'll say the final score will be 7-4 in favor of the Twins. But I obviously have very little confidence in that without knowing the full picture. And then to wrap up the episode, let's take a look at the rest of the weekend. Saturday is the only game that I know the full pitching matchup for, which is very helpful to know at least one, I guess. Connor Prelip, who was supposed to throw yesterday but got pushed back, will throw tomorrow. And opposite Prelip will be another youngster, right-hander Logan Henderson. Henderson, who's 24 years old, made his MLB debut not too long ago. That came on April 4th. He was then sent right back down for a month, and this will be his third start since being called back up after that. On the year, Henderson has a 4.15 ERA over 13 innings, but a sub-1 whip and 16 strikeouts to just 2 walks, so he's been very sharp, particularly in his 2 most recent starts. 11 innings, 4 runs, and 13 strikeouts to just 1 walk. He's going to pound the zone, although I think every time I say that about a pitcher, they don't pound the zone. So hopefully that's just a little bit of a jinx working in our favor. Henderson has a very Simeon Woods-Richardson-y pitch mix. He's very fastball changeup heavy, much like Woods-Richardson is very fastball splitter heavy. But he'll also mix in a cutter and a slider. He's getting a lot of chases on everything besides that slider. So his stuff is clearly plenty sharp, though his velocity is nothing crazy. He only sits 93 with that 4-seam and doesn't get a ton of extension either, but he mixes speeds really well, and that's what keeps hitters off balance. I'll be curious to see how he looks tomorrow. And then on the other side, with Connor Prelip, I mentioned the Brewers are good against fastballs. They are not against sliders, and this is a team with a lot of left-handed bats. I'm really optimistic about how Prelip lines up in this start, and I think the Twins get it done on Saturday to clinch the series victory. My final score prediction is going to be 5-4 in favor of the Twins. I think it's going to be a pretty neck-and-neck game throughout, but I'm feeling a walk-off. I don't know why, but I am, and I think it's going to be Ryan Jeffers that gets it done. That's just what my gut is telling me. And then to wrap up the series on Sunday, Bailey Ober will take the mound for the Twins, and like I said earlier, unclear who it'll be for the Brewers. Milwaukee is not exceptional against changeups, which obviously works well for Ober, who leans very heavily on his changeup. But Ober is also coming off the best start of his major league career, and it's very rare to see a pitcher follow up a start like that with another dominant outing. I'm going to say the Twins drop the series finale on Sunday, but a 2-1 weekend would still be, 2-1 weekend would still be perfectly fine with me. I'll say the final score will be 7-6 in favor of the Brewers. I don't think Ober will be horrible, but I think he'll give up probably about 4 runs, and I don't have faith in the bullpen to hold down a lead for 3 or 4 innings. But like I said, if the Twins can win the series this weekend, that is a success in my book. But folks, that is all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Twins Latest. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do me a huge favor and hit that button for daily Twins content. Drop a question for me in the comments if you would like to be featured in the next mailbag segment. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. But until next time, I'm Sam Calder, and I will see you guys on Monday.